Yeah, it's a good question. We've been in the news conference with Mikel Arteta earlier on this afternoon. He was in a fantastic mood, as you'd expect, 2-year wait for a Premier League title. And you mentioned all of those celebrations that we saw across social media of the players, of the fans as well. Tens of thousands gathering outside the Emirates on Tuesday night. But one person, as you mentioned, was missing, Mikel Arteta, when the final moment happened to confirm Arsenal as champions. So where was he? Well, instead of me telling you, I'll let the man himself explain.
It's one of the best feelings I ever had. I'm supposed to be here at Colney watching the game with the boys and certain staff because that's what they wanted, but I couldn't. I think 20 minutes later, before the game, I had to leave. I couldn't bring the energy that I wanted, and I think when it was their moment as well to watch it together, to be themselves, and just see what the outcome would be. And I went home. I went outside to the garden. I started to build some fire and I started to do some barbecue. I didn't watch any of it. I was just hearing some noises in the background in the living room, and suddenly the magic happened. My oldest son opened the garden door. He started to run towards me. He started to cry. He gave me a hug and said, "We are champions, Daddy." And then my other two boys and my wife came over, and it was beautiful.
I wonder if Mikel Arteta was in a bit of a cheeky mood earlier on this afternoon, Vicky, because he mentioned the word fire there, and a few of the journalists looked at each other because there were those reports, weren't there, that he'd lit a fire in the training ground. In a news conference a few weeks ago, he actually said, "I'm on fire." And then later on in the news conference, he mentioned staying humble, in reference maybe to a couple of years ago when Erling Haaland said that very thing to Gabriel. And then there was another line where he said, you know, bottling the emotion. And talking of bottling the emotion, yeah, this was a big narrative during the season, wasn't it? And one of the journalists did ask, with all the noise and the questions asking about Arsenal, whether they were going to bottle the league after 3 second-place finishes. Arteta was asked how he coped with all of that noise, and this was his response.
In our job, you have to respect every opinion. I think the difficulty is to place those opinions in the place that they belong, you know, because some of them can be extremely useful and they can help you to be better, to see or to appreciate something in a different way, or to open your eyes to something that maybe you don't have the capacity to look at, but others that can be just damaging and the only purpose is towards that. I think they have to be really far from you. Otherwise, it's going to affect you in a way that obviously you're going to transmit it to the team, and that cannot happen as a manager.
It's been an extraordinary season so far for Arsenal and Mikel Arteta. As I mentioned, the first Premier League title since 2004. An extraordinary season, though, could become an historic season next Saturday if they can beat Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League Final and win the European Cup for the very first time in their history. Before then, I think the celebrations are going to continue, because on Sunday at Selhurst Park, when they visit Crystal Palace, it is, of course, Coronation Day. And you'll be able to see Martin Odegaard lift the Premier League trophy, the first Arsenal captain to do so since Patrick Vieira 22 years ago. It is live on Sky Sports Premier League. Crystal Palace against Arsenal gets underway at 2 o'clock. It's going to be a big day for those Arsenal fans.
It certainly is. Thank you very much indeed, Dharmesh. Jodie, we're talking about that, you know, it's the first time in 22 years that they've picked up the Premier League trophy. But do you see this as a kind of a one-off, or do you see Arsenal now going on to dominate? Bearing in mind they've been second, and they were trying to knock on that door. They've opened the door now, so will they dominate in the coming years?
Yeah, but I think that's an important point, though, Vic, because when you challenge and you finish second for 3 consecutive years and people start labelling you as bottle jobs or people that fall off a cliff at the end of the season and stuff like that, I definitely don't think it'll be a one-off as far as them just winning the one title. But I wouldn't stretch to dominating English football yet. I feel that the competition in the Premier League is too vast for... I mean, we've only really seen Pep's Man City do it, really, for like 4 years. And then you go to the Man United of old that managed 3 in a row. I think they're in and amongst it as being... You're talking City, I think, are going to improve. I actually think Arsenal will improve. I don't see Liverpool having a season like they've had this season. I'm hoping that Chelsea are going to improve. So I wouldn't go as far as dominating English football, but I think you do have to hold your hands up and go. The fact that they've won the league and they've made a Champions League final. There's only 2 other English teams that have managed that and won, and that's Man United and Man City in their kind of dominating type eras. So it's a good sign. I'd like to say that for Arsenal, but I wouldn't go as far as dominating yet. We have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Grow up in front of our eyes, from the academy all the way through, and now he's at a Champions League final.
Yes, unbelievable. And quite rightly, he's held in such high esteem and affection by the Arsenal fans because he's one of their own. He joined the club. He went to the Hale End Academy at the age of 7. The age of 7. So this is how much this club means to him. And the one word I would use to describe Bukayo as a person, and it has never changed, and I'll tell you now, will never change, humble. He's one of the most humble people you're ever likely to meet. And his journey has been one, it is, as he said in his own words, reward. Do you know what, when he first broke into the team, you know where he played? When he first started playing for the first
wing back.
No, left back. Not even a wing back. Yeah. He was a left back due to injuries, and that's where he started before they saw his proper position and where he can play. And he played so much football when he was young. If I tell you, he made 184 senior appearances before the age of 21. What does that tell you?
Wow.
He has played so much football. So when we talk about young players, yes, he is still a young player, but he's one of the most experienced professionals you'll find. He's played so much football.
And big games as well. You think about the arc of redemption in football, right? The penalty kick at Euro 2020.
So this was the 5th penalty kick. 2 other England players had already missed. That's the first penalty kick he'd taken in senior football.
Wow.
He's entrusted with that. As soon as it happened, he knew he was going to suffer horrific abuse, the worst abuse possible. And he said to himself afterwards, I can either let it define me, I can go into my shell, or I can work harder, I can become a better footballer, a better person, and have these moments again. And that's what he chose. He chose his path to redemption. Of course, remember when he scored, no, they call it redemption, he's taken plenty of pens since, when he scored in the shootout against Switzerland in the Euros 2024.
Yeah.
That is all well behind him now. And yes, and also as well, there was a moment because he suffered vile racist abuse.
Yeah.
But there was a wall at Arsenal, and there's a lovely video where all these letters, and I mean handwritten letters, Teddy's, you know, from around the world. And equally, when Arsenal played Tottenham in a pre-season friendly, it was at the Tottenham Stadium. The Tottenham fans put up a banner as well.
Yeah.
So he is held, not just by Arsenal fans, but England fans, by football in general, with such huge affection.
I think you have to give some credit to Gareth Southgate and how he stood up and really spoke out against the racial abuse. And I'm glad you highlighted that word, because it wasn't just abuse. It was full-on racism that he suffered. And Bukayo Saka should have never been put in that situation by some of the elder players for the Three Lions. But yet he stood up and he stepped up anyways. And Mikel Arteta deserves a lot of credit, because Saka went on to say that one of the biggest influences that helped change and start his redemption arc was Mikel Arteta, because he changed the culture. And it was almost to the same extent where David Beckham missed that penalty, or got that red card, excuse me.
Yeah.
And Sir Alex Ferguson shielded him and said, hey, come back here. You're one of us. We'll protect you. We'll look after you. And you see what happened from then on. The numbers, the accolades, the big moments don't lie.
Do you think this might have been a case of too much pressure on one individual?
I think it's a case of too much football on one individual as well. Arsenal and Bukayo Saka are synonymous in this success, in this turnaround, in this project. And Mikel Arteta deserves the credit for smashing up the culture that wasn't delivering, and saying, we're going to get some of the young players, some of the players who get what Arsenal are about. He's Arsenal through and through, and you talked about him being one of their own. Bukayo Saka was almost putting the team on his back at times.
Yeah.
One of the youngest players. And, okay, you might say some of the pressure is there, but he needed more help. He needed other players to step up to the moment.
Right.
And the group just wasn't.
Ironically, though, the year that they do win the Premier League, his role is diminished, but because of injuries. If he would have been healthy, he probably would have been the main guy. Still, it's actually shocking that they win the Prem and his numbers are nowhere near his best.
Yeah, Nico, you're entirely right. I can almost hear the hesitation in your voice of you don't want to do down a top player and in this moment of glory say, yeah, but you've not been at your best. You're 100% right. But in a way, it's actually a good thing because over the last 2 seasons, he's only started 45 games. You have to go back to his hamstring injury in December 24, which happened in the December. Had an operation. He was not then starting until March, April. So he missed a lot of football. This season, he's been playing with an Achilles injury. And also, I have also heard he's had a knee injury as well. So he's trying to get back into his rhythm. There's been a bit of loss of confidence. You wonder whether or not there was a loss of form as well. So those things combined. But why I say it's a good thing, because now Arsenal have had a squad where they can cope without him. Obviously, a fully fit Bukayo Saka, first choice on the team sheet. He's the captain when Mikel so when Odegaard is not there, Martin Odegaard is not there. So he's a huge player for them. But they have now, I think if this 2 seasons ago, they'd have burnt him out because they're just trying to get something from him. So I think they've done really well by him, by managing his injury, managing his minutes, and hopefully he'll go on to have a long career and he'll get back to the numbers he was, and it's because they've protected him as well. So I don't look at this as a lean phase of his career or his ability. Not at all. It's almost managing an injury. I mean, don't forget, he's the second youngest player to get to 50 Premier League goals and 50 assists, which he did with the corner against Burnley. So it's not like he's not producing.
It's almost like a blessing in disguise, if you will, that
100%.
Arsenal had to figure out how to play without him. If you would have asked me in August, or told me in August, Arsenal wins the Premier League and Saka has his least amount of minutes in the last 6 seasons, I would have said, no, that's not happening.
No chance,
And it ended up happening. But when he does play, he is very, very good, Lahoud. Talk to me about what he does well.
Yeah, we're going to see the difference in the Bukayo Saka that's come back from injury, and especially a Bukayo Saka that's had to learn how to play with Viktor Gyökeres, because a lot of criticism, I think, back to the Carabao Cup, and when you look at the clips that are going to come up, it was Saka was maybe being a bit too overeager, maybe being selfish. He was a difference maker for Arsenal in terms of getting a bit of belief in the Champions League semi-final scoring against PSG, and then he does it again here.
Another reason for, if you're focusing entirely on numbers or looking at the numbers, they're down. And you had it in your clip there. His relationship with Ben White was very, very good indeed. They had an almost telepathic understanding in terms of overlap. Jurriën Timber is a very, very different player, and they don't have the same connection. So I think he has missed the Ben White involvement as well.
Jeff, Bukayo Saka is already a very beloved character at Arsenal. And he will be, no matter what. He's already won a Premier League. But if he wins a double, Premier League and Champions League, where does he enter in his Arsenal legacy?
It's complete. It's complete. He's 90% there anyway because they've won the Premier League. This entire group of players, if they pull off the Champions League, that's it. That's done. That's mic drop.
Do they sit at the table with the Invincibles, or are they more than the Invincibles?
You'd have to say they do sit at the table with the Invincibles because they've won the Premier League. Now, players in the Invincibles side, there's players who have got multiple trophies, but Arsenal have never won the Champions League. So if this group of players wins the Champions League and does the double, for my money, they comfortably sit alongside the Invincibles, and you would have to argue they've gone one step more because they've landed the other big trophy.
Yeah, in my opinion, this team is not a better team than the Invincibles. I agree that they sit at that table. The Invincibles that's a different kettle of fish.
Lahoud, 100%. I think all of us, any of us, everybody watching on YouTube, by the way, would be saying 100%. Invincibles are a better team than this team. Yeah. That's not specifically what I was asking. It's more like the legacy and how they will be remembered and revered as a team. Arsenal, who has never won the double, never won the Champions League, let alone, is 90 minutes away from winning the Prem and winning the Champions League.
Yeah, to answer your question about Bukayo Saka specifically, right, where he sits,
That's a great
I would put him
photo.
in there alongside you. You think of Arsenal players who have come through the academy that are legends of the club. Your Tony Adams, your Ray Parlors, your Martin Keowns. He would sit at the table with those legends of the club. Raising that trophy, should he do that? That's the stuff of dreams. That's what you live to play for as an academy product. It's the stuff you dream about.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of these guys are already legends to the Arsenal faithful, but they could be immortal.
Yeah.
If they win the double, like Arsenal winning the double would be quite
But
big.
put it this way, Nico, if it happens, I think you'll find around about next March, there'll be a lot of babies in North London called Bukayo.
Or Bukayo.
Good case for it. OK, we are going to get some breaking news because, of course, as I said, it's the England squad announcement tomorrow. Thomas Tuchel will name his 26 that are going to America, and Harry Maguire has confirmed that he is not in Thomas Tuchel's squad. This is what he said to Talk Sport. I was confident I could have played a major part this summer for my country after the season I've had. I've been left shocked and gutted by the decision. I wish the players all the best. So, I mean, straight away, what do you make of that? Did you see that coming at all, Jody?
If you'd have asked me at the beginning of the season, I would have said he'd have had no chance of being in the squad for me personally.
OK.
But then since Michael Carrick's been the manager of Man United, I do think his form has been decent, been very good. You look at what he's done for England previously, he's performed really well in tournaments. But if you was to force my hand under Thomas Tuchel, would he be starting? I'd say definitely not. Would he make the squad? I would kind of think it's a bit of a toss-up personally. Just maybe because of how Thomas Tuchel has been with him previously, and just the way that I think he prefers his teams to play.
What's he lacking for you then?
Just pace. I think that whenever we want to play a high line, and because like I said, I think he's done great for England. He's a threat in both boxes. He's dominant. I think he plays out really well from the back. But I just think international football, when you want to go up against the top teams, but you want to go after them and you're going to be higher up the pitch, I just don't think he's got the pace to be able to deal with anyone that's fairly quick. And that's not a slight on Harry Maguire. I do think he's ended up having a decent season for Man United, but I'm not too surprised that he's left out, to be honest.
The fact that he's a fullback, though, does that sort of make him think, hang on a minute, because he's got a specialist kind of area, is that in your thinking at all, or do you just think there's people that are better?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if you look at previous tournaments, you say that his performances have been brilliant.
Yeah.
If anything, he's played better for England than he has for Man United. But I think that when you're a coach or a manager that looks at playing a certain way, and I think that you go Gurhey, Konza are definitely in front of him. I think they're just as good on the ball, but quicker. And then you start looking at John Stones. I think is a phenomenal footballer, albeit he hasn't played a lot. And I actually think Levi Colwill could be making a late shout for the squad, because he's a left-sided centre-half who's played in a massive game against Liverpool, a massive cup final, and done really well against two of the best teams in the country, and is looking fit. So maybe that's come into the thought process. I don't know, there might be others, but yeah, I'm not too surprised. I actually feel for him as an individual. I think that you wouldn't have a heart if you didn't feel that way, because he's forced his way back into the team. Carrick's shown a bit of confidence in him, and he's repaid that confidence by performing at a level that he would have liked to have performed at. So you've got to feel sorry for him, but I'm not too shocked.
OK, yeah.